Have a great day, Mike.
I can get you a job with the Gillette company.
Yeah.
You could be a model for shaving.
Okay.
You make a lot of money.
Only once.
Mashiach is definitely
And I'm not Erev Elul. I'm not going to use a
Let me tell
race.
you, Marty, Mashiach is definitely coming. You and Mordecai have never no doubt about it.
No, I'll tell you something even better. What? We share a first name.
Hey, I'm telling you now, it's Mashiach is about.
That's definitely Mashiach is coming.
Absolutely.
Of course, Mashiach is coming. The problem is
when?
that it's Bimheira. Bimheira could mean any time up till 6,000 years.
Bimheira, Biyomenu. What about the other word? Biyomenu. When's it take?
The only carrots I'm interested in are ones that go in the
Gentlemen, let's start with our learning sponsors and then we'll ask for the name. Okay. Year of learning by the friends of Nina Monester, Nechama Hasna, Bad Yitzchak Aharon, many friends of Stephen Vigdor, L'zecha Nishmat Simcha Melech Ben Meir Leib Halevi, friends of Marcy Kurtz in memory of her great niece, Leah Bracha Bas Rivka, Isaac and Evelyn Blachor in memory of his sister, Chaya Rachel Bas Isser. A month of learning by Mark Linder in memory of his mother, Yonah Bat Zalman Leib. By Rabbi Isaac Schmerler in memory of his wife, Menya Sima Bat Yitzchak Isaac. By the friends of Marilyn Schmerler. In her memory, Menya Sima Bat Yitzchak Isaac. Gary and Marcia Schrager in memory of his father, David Ben Yosef, and his mother, Freda Bas Hendel. Marcia Federbush in memory of her husband, Oriel Pinchas Ben Harav Shimon. Andrea and David Dolmy in memory of her father, Tzvi Herschel Hillel Ben Abraham. A week of learning by Shelley and Oscar Moll in memory of her father, Shlomo Reuven Ben Binyamin. Vicky Rabinovich Fish and Larry Fish in memory of her father, Chaim Zusya Ben Shlomo Ben Sion, her mother, Ita Bat Tzvi, and his father, Avram David Ben Shlomo Raphael. Donna Goldstein in memory of her father, Aryeh Yehuda Ben Moshe Shmuel. Today being the 22nd of the month, we have a day of learning by Zahava Baum in memory of her father-in-law, Ruvain Ben Moshe. Okay. And we include also for Refuah Shlema the following said name. Adina Naomi Basrina Esther. Okay, as well as Peretz Simach Ben Yaakov Yitzchak and Bachor Moshe Reuven Ben Sima Tabor. May the Shemas have an aliyah, Crank Rafia, Velti Yeshia, Rishayim Atliya, and the Chol B'nai Israel a good Gaben Shkia.
Amen. So explain to him what Abraham is.
You want me to just translate it?
I don't.
Translation that one translation is enmity. Okay.
Enmity,
What is that?
hostility, envy.
Which word?
No, the second word on the page.
Shum Ever. And the commentary where it says here, the father might have animosity towards the Lord. The word might scared the hell out of me.
What?
You want him to definitely have animosity?
No, I want him to say, it's still like his own flesh and blood that he had, and like, for what purpose?
She's a daughter.
If she did something wrong, she stole everything, I can understand. But might, because she found something and he's afraid that she won't give it to him.
Not
because he has to
everybody is
support her
a
anyhow.
tzaddik like you,
What
Sid.
kind of
A low
fault is
life
this?
like me would resent his kid
You
being
would.
richer than he is.
Based on what you're saying, you would.
Yeah, he says so. He admitted.
Okay.
Sense.
I can't believe it. Where's the meters of the truth? Where's this chesed? I don't understand that. We're taught to do all this shit.
But it's okay to sell his 7-year-old. That you didn't worry about. Now
No,
you're
why
worried
do you
about
sell
him
a
being
7-year-old?
envious of her
Why don't you
finding.
tell me the answer what the 7-year what it is? You're still saying the word, it's an ad, and that, what you're saying is just, simple, whatever it is. What's the reason why he's selling it? Because they're so poor they can't afford it. That the
That
husband
could
didn't-
be
But
why.
in this case, what he's saying, he might have animosity towards his daughter because she won't give it to him, even though it's his.
No, she has to give it to him.
All right, gentlemen.
It's a very, he's like you said, it's a very poor choice of words. The father definitely knows he's gonna get
You
it. but
can't
we're
say the
discussing
Gemara has,
the way
yeah, but
you-
they're giving the
when a person talks like
rationale.
that, you're no better
Stop
than-
arguing and we'll
All
get on
right,
with the Gemara.
gentlemen, gentlemen,
Very strict today, otherwise.
gentlemen. Okay, let's,
Batter up.
the point is, okay, Rashi's explanation is because we understand that the father, that the husband has certain direct, as we're going to see. Okay, well, wait, we'll get to the father. Let's deal with the wife first. Okay, because the Gemara has told us that or is telling us that the husband has certain direct responsibilities. Number one, okay, and those responsibilities were established by the rabbis, okay, because of a balance of how the well-being, economic, physical, etc., of the family should be. So therefore, Rashi is suggesting, okay, here in this case, that we don't have that same kind of level of legal responsibility on the part of a father to the daughter, okay, but instead we have a certain amount of moral and ethical responsibility. Okay, all right, so let's go on. So the Gemara picks up now with another piece from our Mishnah. B'maaseh yadeha. Okay, on what basis is it that the father, okay, is entitled to the handiwork of the daughter? Okay, whatever money she makes. Okay. Manalan, on what basis? To Amar Rav Huna Amar Rav. Rav Huna in the name of Rav, Minayin Shemaaseh Bat La'av, on what basis is the earnings of the daughter to the father? Shneamar, as we cite a pasuk, V'chiyim kor ish et bito la'ama. And if it were such that a man were to sell his daughter as a servant, okay, ma'ama ma'aseh yadeha l'rabbah, the same way that a servant woman's earnings or handiwork, okay, go to her master. Afbat ma'aseh yadeha la'aviyah. So likewise, a daughter's handiwork or deeds or earnings go to her father. Ve'ema, and I might say here, hani mili ktana. Maybe this implies to when the girl is a minor, okay, below the age of, let's say, 11 and
12 and a day.
Okay, whatever. Dematse mizban la. Why? Because it's possible that he could sell her. In other words, at that point, when she's young, he could sell her into servitude, okay? If, as Sid was suggesting, because of the economic distress in the family, okay, he might, and I'm going to put in parentheses for the moment, sell her to a more well-to-do family, thinking that she would be better off.
She'll also be married into
Okay.
that family.
Well,
in the
we'll
normal
see.
course of
We'll
events.
see. Aval na'ara. But whereas for a na'ara who's between 12 and 12 and a half, delo matze mizban la, where he is not capable of selling her, ma'aseh yadah dida havu. Maybe we might suggest the Gemara, that her handiwork should belong to her. Okay? Mistabra davia havu. But it seems logical that it should be to her father. Why? Were you to consider that it might be possible that her handiwork, does not go to her father, elaha dezache le rachmana la'av lamim sara lechuba. But rather, what we have here is that the father still has the merit responsibility. However, we want to translate zachi there okay, that was defined by Hashem for him to bring her to the chuppah. Right? Hechi matzi masala. How else then would we say that this is part of his responsibility? So the implication is, since he has that responsibility, it would imply then that he has some control there as well. Okay? Ha kimavatel la mimaaseyadeha. Okay, were he not to have that, let's say, responsibility or merit to bring her to the chuppah, then that would seem to nullify, okay, for her the items, the earnings. Okay, kimavatel la, says the Gemara, right?
If working on Tuesday, she keeps her own money, that comes into conflict with the father being able to marry her off, because she would have to take off from work.
Well,
on
we'll get to
Tuesday,
that. We
and that's
didn't
what
get to
she
the,
said.
it didn't say that yet. It didn't say that yet in the Gemara. Okay? Don't jump ahead so quick. All right? The husband would be missing, the father, I'm said, the father would be missing out on her earnings. Okay? On what situation? Parich, okay? So in other words, the implication being that the day that he would be marrying her off, she wouldn't be working, and therefore that day, okay, he would lose his.
This is all a havamina. If she kept her earnings, then by forcing her to marry someone
He
on a
would
given
still-
day, she would
he
not
would-
get paid that day.
But then he wouldn't get it. That's the implication of the Gemara. Okay?
The havamina here is, if he didn't get it, then how could he force her to take off from work and cause
Well,
her
I'm,
loss?
I'm
That's
I'm
what
not
it is.
comfortable with that shot. Okay?
That's what it
Right?
is.
Right? In other words, she would neglect her earnings because she wouldn't work on the day that she would be married. Not only wouldn't she get it, he wouldn't get it. That's the implication. Right? Parich Rav Achai. And Rav Achai disagrees with that. Ema, I might say, Dayihiv lasachar peka'ata. Okay? That instead, what we might say is that he should get some sort of reimbursement. Okay?
No,
If
he
you would
should
get,
he should reimburse her. If the problem is she loses the $50 she'd earned that day, so it's easily fixed. Let him give her the $50 and say, take off from work and marry Reuven.
sort of. All right? Ema Dayihiv lascha, that I might say that he can give her the reimbursement.
Right.
In other words, for the lack of earnings,
Of the
okay,
day that
for
she's
the
out.
day that she went to the chuppah, but he would still be out the money. That's part of the issue.
Right.
Okay? That's part of the issue. Inami, or if possible also, the masar la balavia. Or we might say an alternative would be that he marries her off at night.
So she doesn't-
Okay, so and she's not working because she only does a day job. Okay, that's the, okay. All right. Okay. All right, inami, okay, inami, or possible, the masarla. Now here's a problematic issue. Inami, the masarla b'shabbatot v'yamim tovim. Okay,
In the afternoon
okay.
of business.
Wait a second.
Okay.
Could he please say it?
All right, so, or possible that we might say that he would arrange for the chuppah and give her over for marriage on Shabbatot or Yomim Tovim. Okay, now how do we understand that? To me, that was a problematic statement. Okay, I assume Art Scroll is going to say Motzei Shabbos.
No, it's Erev. You're
Erev
not,
Shabbos.
we
Erev
learned already,
Shabbos.
you're not allowed to get married Motzei Shabbos.
Right,
What we're talking about is
Erev Shabbos.
that businesses have to close.
Is that how Art
Yeah.
Scroll
Yes,
explains
yeah,
it?
yes.
Okay,
You
I don't
have to
like that.
Close your business at 12 o'clock on Erev Shabbos. So she has from 12 to 5:30 where she could get married.
To me,
And
that
she
that's
doesn't lose her
I
pay.
accept it.
That's what it means.
I accept it. I think it's dachuk, and I don't
The
like
whole
it.
thing is stuff. This is
Okay.
all a havamina.
Okay,
That if she didn't give the father the money, But the Metzias is she does give the.
We know
father
she
the
does. That's the
So you
issue.
can be as unreasonable as you like. These are
Well,
all
I don't know.
avenues.
I don't know. Ela katana lo tzricha kra. Word for a minor, we don't need a pasuk. Hashta zevuni mizavdin la. Why? Because here we could say he could simply sell her. Ma'aseh yadaha mebayin. So why then do we have to even ask about the fact that the father should be receiving her handiwork, her earnings? Ela ki itztarich kra. Rather, here we do need a pasuk. Why? Looking at na'ara, because we're talking about a na'ara as well.
Where he can't
Okay.
sell her, but he still gets mercy.
Right. And remember, we pointed out yesterday that the beginning of our Mishnah did not say katana or na'ara. It referred bat, and we said it refers to both. Okay. So that's how we come back to what the Mishnah and Rashi's explanation at the beginning of the Mishnah. Okay. All right. We go on now. Bahafarat nidareha. Okay. In terms of nullifying her vows. Minalan, on what basis? The ktiv, why? Because the pasuk we cite part of the pasuk again. Benureha beit aviha. Okay. In her youth, she's still attached or under the responsibility of her father's household. Umekabel et gita. And we said in the Mishnah that the father is the one who receives the document of divorce, right? Minalan, on what basis? Okay. Says the Gemara, Dichtiv v'yatzah v'haita, because we have psukim that says she goes out and she was.
Goes out
Okay.
from husband A,
Okay, wait.
goes out
Hold on. All right, v'yatzah v'haita. Okay, so it says she goes out and she's becoming a wife. Okay, so since we're going to see that the father has the right to accept her betrothal, we're going to say that there's a parallel to the accepting the document of the divorce. And that's how the Gemara continues. Itkush yitziyah lahavaya. Okay, that we make this association between when she is divorced and a document is given for that, to likewise to when we said that one of the three means for the betrothal was a star. Okay, and so that's how we make that parallel there. Okay. Ve'eno ochel perot b'chayah. And we say that the father does not get the usufruct. Right? Tanu Rabbanan says the father, the bride.
That's
What?
usufruct in English.
Yeah, usufruct is the term that used for Niksei Malok.
Most probably on the civil, all this is what she's coming in with, if she's coming with nothing alone.
But we're talking before that.
We're talking about by the father's house.
Okay.
He can have it, but remember what it says here, he can enjoy the pay or something.
No, he cannot.
No,
That's what
the
it's
father
saying.
cannot. That's
I didn't say the father said the husband.
the
Yeah, but
husband,
this is
right?
yeah.
talking
So
about
that's
the father.
that's what we're
Once he
going to
gets
see.
over, he can't have anything anymore.
Right. That's what we're going to see.
We're not talking.
Right. We're almost there yet. Tanu Rabbanan. Ha'av eino ochel perot b'chayei bito. Says the Breita. The father does not benefit from these, want to call it Niksei Maluk, properties, whatever. Okay. Rabbi Yossi b'Rabbi Yehuda Omer, ha'av ochel perot b'chayei bito. Okay. According to Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, the father does benefit from these items, can derive benefit, maybe put it that way. But my kamiflage, what are they arguing about? Tanakama Savar, he's of the opinion Tanakama. Bishlema Baal Takinu Le Rabbanan Pire. That's acceptable because regarding the husband, it's the rabbis that established, okay, that he gets these benefits, fruits, right? The imkain. Why? Because were it not for that fact, and this is what I was alluding to earlier, that the Chazal, that the rabbis established legal equivalence. Okay, what happens? if he were not to get the implication, were he not to benefit in that manner, the husband, mimna velo parik. It's possible that he would refrain and not redeem her when she's
Not
captured, right? Okay. Ela av, but the father, my ikalamema. But regarding the father, what are you going to say? And here's your point, Sid. Here's your point about relationship, father-daughter relationship. And this is the question. The mimna velo parik. Are we going to say that a father would refrain from ever ransoming, redeeming his daughter were she to be captive? Okay, that's our point. That's what you were really underlying your questions. Okay, so the Gemara now tells us, Balav hachi parikla. Okay, okay, even without receiving her handiwork, okay, isn't she his flesh and blood? And therefore, wouldn't he redeem her, ransom her? V'Rabbi Yossi, B'Rabbi Yehuda Savar, and he's of the opinion of nami mimna v'lo parik. It's possible, I'm going to say, that the father might refrain and not ransom her. Why? Savar kisa nikita iluha. Why? Because she has her own pouch of money. Okay, in that case, all right? Tizil v'tifrok nafsha. She can go and redeem, ransom herself. Okay. Now we come back.
We're talking about a narrative right now, which has a mentality full of the time.
Right,
What the
right,
Gemara is just saying.
right.
She's
Nara, not a katana.
She's not a katana.
Right.
So
Could be a
so
katana.
what's the problem with a narrative?
Katana would have a pouch of money.
Of course, her grandfather gave her a field. She doesn't have the right to sell it, but they would put the earnings in escrow. The father would have the responsibility of harvesting, purchasing, selling the wheat and putting the money in escrow.
Okay.
So now at this point, when she's a captive, the father would say, why should I use my money? She's
I
got
can use. She's got the money in from her own account.
from her own earnings that are in escrow that she gets when she's supposed
Okay.
to.
All right. I see that. Gemara is going to come back, perhaps, and raise that. Again, that's hard scroll. Okay. Nisate says Nisate. What about when she's married? Yeter alav habal. We said there's more on the behalf than for the husband. Shahu ochel v'chuli. Right, that he gets to use that usufruct, that extra payros. Tanu Rabbanan. We have a new braita. Katav la peirot, ksut v'kelim, sheyavau ima mi beit aviha lebeit ba'ala. Okay, that when the father wrote, okay, all right, the t'nayim on this wedding, what did he commit? Okay, as let's say perhaps as part of the dowry. Okay, produce and clothing and utensils, that they will be transferred from the house of the father to the house of the husband. What happens then, Meta? What happens if she dies during the Erusin period, right? Lo zacha habal b'dvarim halalu. Then the husband does not benefit and merit to have these things. Mishum Rabbi Nassan Amru, in the name of Rabbi Nassan, they said, Zacha habal b'dvarim halalu. He claims that the husband does benefit, okay, for these things. Lema, beplugde de Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, v'Rabbanan kimiflage. Shall we say then that this argument between Rabbi Nassan and the Tanakama is the same argument as that between Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah and the rabbis? Okay. Ditznan, as we taught elsewhere in a Mishnah, nit armala or nit garsha, if she became widowed or divorced, bein min hanisuin or bein ha'erusin, whether it was from the marriage or from the engagement, the betrothal, gove et hakol. Okay, what do we mean, gove et hakol? Okay, acquires all.
Well, they were really talking about the
Suba, right? So we're seeing here what happens. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah Omer, min hanisuin gover hakol. If it's from following the actual marriage event, he acquires all. Umin ha'erusin, but from the engagement, betula gova matayim, for a virgin, there is the amount of 200, va'almana mana, and for a widow, it is mana.
And any extras you wouldn't get.
Shelo katav la ela almanat lekonsa. Why? Because written in the document was the fact that it spelled out that the intention was for marriage, bringing her into his household. Laman da amar lo zacha, according to the one who says doesn't benefit, doesn't gain that stuff, to Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah. He seems to follow the view of Rabbi Eliezer ben Azariah. Uman da amar zacha, and according to the one who says he does benefit, kirabanan, seems to be according to the view of the rabbis. Lo, no, says the Gemara. The Kuli Alma ka Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. No, everybody holds like Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Man da amar lo zacha, and the one who says that he doesn't benefit, ki Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Okay, is like the view of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Uman da amar zacha, and the one who says that he does benefit, ad kan lo ka'amar Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, ela mididei ledida. Okay, but rather up to that point, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah is saying that it implies rather from his to her. Shelo katavla ela almanat lekonsa. Why? Because he did not write that this item, the items that were listed, okay, did not come to him until he brought her into his household to marry her.
We're not talking about that. We're talking about the extras that the husband.
Whatever
provides.
extras, whatever it is.
Yeah, but no, we're not talking at all here about from the father.
From the
girl.
dowry?
No, the dowry is another issue. We're now talking. If the husband says, I'll give you more than the 200, I'll give you 300 and a gorgeous diamond ring. Those extras are an inducement for her to marry him. So those aren't chol until after Nisuya.
Right.
But after Erison, he still has to give the 2 or the 1, depending
Right,
on.
that's the basic statement.
So why did he throw in those extras? They're an inducement for her to go through with the marriage.
Yeah. Aval midida ledidei, but from her to him, okay, in other words, those
The stuff
other
the father
fathers.
did deny him.
right. Afilu Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah mode de mishum ichtune, who that is because of the idea of encouraging the marriage, or he's committed to the marriage. Baha ichtane laho. Okay, and here, okay, that she's already married to him. Okay, so that's the implication. Chayav b'mazonoteha. Okay, so we said that there is this obligations on the part of the husband, okay, all right, to give her certain things. The first item was mazonoteha, her sustenance.
Housing.
Okay, the next we're going to see the Gemara ultimately is going to have to deal with the other examples, which was ksuta, her clothing, and onata, and her conjugal rights. Okay, and the Gemara is going to clarify what this spells out. Okay, Tanu Rabbanan, says the Braita, Tiknu mizonoteha, tachet maaseh yadeha. So the Braita is telling us that the rabbis made a takana. They made this
Quid pro quo.
okay, you could say it that way. All right. They made this equivalence, all right, arrangement that the part of the reason that he gives her sustenance is so that her handiwork, her earnings
Go to him.
go to him. Okay. second example, ukvurata, her burial, tachat ketubata. Okay, and here we're saying that the requirement, the obligation on the part of the husband to provide her a burial, okay, is in
Is because he doesn't
again,
have to pay the
because of the fact that the amount that he would have had to pay in terms of a divorce, he is not out that money. Instead, he's out the money to pay for her grave,
which is
right?
much less.
Usually. Okay. All right. We don't always know that, right? Okay. So here we have referring to the dowry items and the ketubah. Lefichach ba'al ochel perot. And therefore, says this quid pro quo, this equivalency, therefore, the husband is able to benefit from the perot, from those additional items that she brings in. He has. Perot, man dechahar deshmayu. On what basis did we suddenly mention or refer to perot? Where did this come in? So the Gemara tells us, Chasuri michsara v'hachikatan. Something is actually missing in our Braita, and we have to teach it and correct it by saying the following. Tiknu mizonoteha tachet ma'aseh yadeha. They established, okay, and made the takana that the sustenance is in a balance, I'm going to say, for her earnings, right? Upirkuna tachat perot, and that his redeeming, ransoming her from captivity is an equivalency for his being able to have the perot, the benefits, ukvurata tachat ketubata, and the requirement of her burial is the equivalency of not having to pay out the money in the ketubah. The fichach, therefore, Baal Ochel Parot. And therefore, we say that the husband is able to benefit from these additional items. My lefichach. So why then did we include in this rewording of the Braita the phrase lefichach, therefore, right? Mahu detema. What is it trying to come that you want to say here? Michal lo nichlinhu. Okay.
What might you have
Okay.
said?
All right. So we're saying that perhaps it's not all of it was consumed here. Anochi. All right. Nanchi.
No, you're
Right. Anochi. Right. Okay. If he left
what
it.
might we have said? He
Okay.
should
Well,
put that money in escrow.
well, we
so
well,
it's
wait.
available. That's what it means.
I know what it means, Michael.
You
But
gotta
don't jump
translate the
ahead.
words.
No, I don't. I don't have to go by Art Scroll's
I'm
direct
not talking
translation.
on scroll.
Okay.
Get the text.
All right. Michal lo nichlinhu. Okay. The translation I use phrased it differently. That's all. Okay. So what are we trying to tell us then? Michal lo nichlinhu. Okay. Perhaps he's not going to be able to use all of it. Anochi. Okay. None chinuhu.
This is a Havamina.
Hold on, Michael. All right. So why the sustenance? In other words, the issue is going to be here. Let's assume that this woman has funds on her own. Okay. And if that's the case, if he has funds on her own, why should he have to use his own funds, okay, to pay in this question of, let's say, paying the ransom? Okay. If that's the case, perhaps even in his own money, he doesn't have enough money to pay for her ransom. Okay. Maybe in the money that she has set aside, that money could be used instead. Okay. So why does he have to use and consume all of his own
No,
money
what
in that situation? Okay.
if
All right.
it's saying if she has income coming in and he's allowed to consume that income because of that equivalence. So I might have the following Havamina. Let him not consume that income, but put it in escrow. So if and when she's ever ransomed, those funds will be available to pay the ransom. If you have that equivalence, you could make that assumption. So that's why the Mishnah or the Brisa brings the word lefikach, even though it
All right,
makes
we'll get
sense
to that.
to accrue those funds in the eventuality of a captivity. We let him eat it, and we assume he'll use, in the very rare case of a ransom, we assume he'll use his own money.
We'll get
That's
to
what
that.
it means.
I
But
understand
that's what
that.
those words mean. You can't wait until the Gemara spells it out. You have to
No,
translate
no.
the words.
Well, we have a disagreement here, that's all. My ditema, Michal lo nichlenu, okay, the question of not consuming it, Anochi, put it aside, Ninchunu, all right, so there's a question. The imkain mimna velo parik. Why? Because it's possible if he did not have enough money to ransom her, he would refrain and not do so. Kamashmalan comes to teach us daha adifa.
That he can.
Okay, it comes to teach us that the other is a preferred method. Okay, that namely, if she has money, okay, thinking that he could use that because that's set aside, right? But if not, he will have to use his own money to redeem her. Why? Zimnin de lo malu uparik la midide. Because it's possible there are times, says the Gemara, okay, that he does not have it, okay, and he would be required then to redeem her from what is his. Okay, all right. So that would be the point. The ipuch ana. Okay, so the Gemara says maybe I would reverse it. Okay, and why use that sustenance? What about the right of the earnings? Okay, maybe use that first, right? Va'amar Abai, and Abai says as follows: Tiknu matsui lematsui. What did the rabbis do when they established these equivalencies? They established something that was regular to something else that was regular. Okay, v'sheino matsui l'sheino matsui, and something that was not irregular to something that was not that was also irregular. Okay, in other words, that which was more common or regular, okay, paying, let's say, for sustenance,
And
okay,
getting herself.
okay, and things like that. Those were common, regular occurrences, okay, as opposed to the example of captivity, which was
rare,
a rare
and
situation.
her having a bunch of money of her own is
This is
also
a
rare.
situation. So that was Abaye's explanation of the situation. Okay? Amar Rava. Rava, however, is going to come through with a little difference. Says Rava, Hi, Tana, Savar Mizonot Midoraita. No, Rava suggests an alternative possibility that maybe the Tana was of the opinion that the requirement that the husband provide her with sustenance is a Torah mandated requirement, right? Tanya. Why? Because it says as follows, Sha'era, okay, using that word, Sha'era, Ksuta, Va'onata. Okay, those three items. He takes the first one, Sha'era, Elu Mizonot. He understood that as foodstuff, sustenance. V'chein hu omer, and likewise it says elsewhere, citing a different pasuk, v'asher achlu sha'ar amit. So there, the word sha'ar refers to the flesh, the food, the meat, whatever. Okay? Ksuta, kemashma'o. There, when we refer to clothing, that's what's understood it to be. Onata, and her time, zo ona ha'amura b'Torah. That is her time as referred to ona in the Torah when it talks about her obligations for to conjugal behavior. V'chein hu omer. Okay, and thus it there says, im ta'aneh et benotai, or if you afflict my daughters. In other words, refraining from, the pasuk understood, it meant refraining from having relations with them was the affliction. Okay, Rabbi Elazar Omer, he says, Okay, a different shot, a different explanation. Sha'ara zo'ona. He claims that that's it refers to the ona. V'chein hu omer, and there he says, ish ish el kol sha'ar b'saro lo tikravu legalot erva. So he cites another pasuk where the phrase again sha'ar there refers to, so to
It
speak,
refers to
flesh,
the
body,
sex.
things like that. Okay, in that situation. All right. Ksuta kemashma'o. The clothing here, as was taught, onata elu mizonot. And the time period, that refers to the foodstuffs. V'chein hu omer v'ya'ancha v'yari vet. Okay, so there that was referring then to a different
Because
example,
you eat meals in regular
because you have the reference to dealing with this question of hunger, and hunger you eat on a, you prevent hunger you eat on a regular basis. Okay, Rabbi Eliezer is just going to go over just to point out the continuation. We're not going to go into detail. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer she'erak suta, right? Lepum sha'ara metan ksuta, and we'll go into that tomorrow. Okay, where he basically says, give her clothes that are appropriate for her age. Okay? In other words, don't give an older woman young women's clothes and vice
The
versa.
women shop in the matron section when they're 40.
Okay. All right. So we'll
But
pick up
that's
there.
no longer the case.
Okay.
12:30, Ruth?